And we are live. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Beyond the 90. England 0 and USA 0. Well, Gary, it's kind of what we expect. Is it what we expected? I mean, going into it, coming after the 6-2 result, we expected something a little bit more, surely.
I think it's a strange one. I think obviously with the 6-2 win, it did its normal thing with England at any tournament, didn't it? We sat there and we went, right, we've won comfortably, brilliant. We're gonna go and win the whole thing. This is amazing. What a great World Cup. And then I think same as the way it happened at the Euros after winning that first game, it was, I don't know, I think we wanted more. I think we were sort of thinking we should be going and winning every game in that group, but I think maybe that wasn't the way that the players went out. I think maybe it was a just don't lose this game. I think I kind of had that feel to it, but I certainly think there was an element of surprise, certainly in the players, from how effective the USA were at breaking us down and moving the ball quickly. So yeah, I think we all hoped that we'd go and get a good result and finally put an end to the debate of is it football or soccer. But unfortunately, we'll have to keep disagreeing on that for a while.
Yeah, it was always going to rock on, regardless of who won. Jeff, from your perspective, from a US perspective, I mean, you must be happy with the way that the US played, because it was just even for most of that game, I'd say you were, especially in the first half, you're all over us, really.
Yeah, I feel like going in, USA definitely did have the odds against them winning that match based on how the first match went and based off how England won their first match. But just going on an English perspective, I did say don't be too confident with that 6-2 win. Obviously, there are some issues there. And I don't know if you guys been following my channel, but I'm going for England in this World Cup. So I'm just analyzing what they're doing and seeing hopefully they go far in the tournament. But yeah, going back to don't be too confident with that first win. There's lack of organization in the midfield. So there's no link in the midfield. There's only defense and offense, and it's just that's where the possession just you lose possession there. And yeah, you definitely do see it now with USA complete underperformance.
Yeah, and they did, and obviously once in the first half, yeah, striking the post, I think they were causing England all sorts of problems. The US were, and it's like England were inviting pressure for long periods of time.
Yeah, and like I said, that comes with just organization. There's nothing in the midfield. I feel like England are playing without an actual designated player that knows how to play the number 10 role to organize that whole line.
Yeah. And that's what it felt like again. Once I don't know if you managed to again watch some of the game, but coming into this game, I mean, you would have thought England would be the one on top. I don't know. Well, what are your thoughts on the game and the result in general?
Well, my thoughts on the England national team are varied because I think England need a serious manager. I don't think Gareth Southgate is the indicated man to this work. He knows about football, obviously. He's a manager. I'm here from, I don't know, 15,000 kilometers away. But I don't think he's the manager that England needs to do something great. England has players, of course, maybe the best team by the names only in the world, but that function, the team don't play as well as they need to do with the names that they have.
Yeah. And again, we're seeing it a few times, obviously, with Belgium. We could probably get into that and talk about Belgium as well. Exactly the same problem, even worse than England at the moment. But Gary, who do you think who was the players that were really lacking in this game from an England perspective? Because there was quite a few that were off the boil.
Yeah, I think again, I agree with what the other guys are saying. I think the way we set up tactically, it suited us against Iran, who I think we knew would maybe sit a bit deeper, come at us on occasion. But I think obviously the second game of a tournament is always going to be different because by that point teams sort of know what they need, and I think that sort of played into the hands of the USA. Meaning, they knew that if they got a result against us, that they'd be as good as through, or at least putting themselves in a good performance or a good position. Sorry, especially after already seeing Wales losing earlier in the day too. So I think for me, it felt like it was a game from Southgate's point of view where he's just sort of gone again, like I said, go back to that Scotland game in the Euros of just don't lose this game. But that affected, I think, a lot of the performances. It seemed very flat, like you said as well. It was inviting pressure. But the key thing, again, which the lads have touched on, it was that missing link between the defensive side and then breaking forward. And I think not having an actual number 10, I don't think Mason Mount stood out as having a great game. I think we all agree. I mean, to be honest, I would say the only player that probably actually had a decent game was Harry Maguire. I thought Harry Maguire looked solid at the back. He dealt with a number of crosses on plenty of occasions, tried to break the lines a little bit. But I think the rest of the team just almost looked like they were going through the motions, really. We didn't see enough of Saka or Sterling. Kane kind of didn't really do too much again. So, yeah, I'd say a number of them really probably you could question on the basis of that game, if you take that in isolation. But I think it does show there's a concern with the midfield. I think that the Rice and Bellingham sort of pivot at the bottom, I think is brilliant. I think can work really, really well, but they need somebody to help link further forward. And I think when you come up against better teams, I mean, obviously Spain playing Germany here at the minute, if you were to play a team, either of those, to be honest, where they've got a good midfield, can control the midfield, you will need somebody there to link it much better than obviously we had done previously. So, if I was Gareth Southgate, I'd be quite excited by the fact that James Maddison's back in training. But again, maybe we're a bit biased, and I think we all know that Southgate probably under pressure to call him up rather than actually wanting him there. But yeah, I think there's definitely a few anyway. But Harry Maguire was probably the only one that could walk off that pitch saying he had a good game.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And just looking at some of the performances across the pitch, and literally stark contrast to the US, Jeff. I mean, you look at some of the players who really impressed you. There was a few players that really impressed me in terms of the unit as a whole was really impressive from the US. But who would you say in particular stood out for you?
I just think all the players, all the strikers that USA have, the midfielders, wingers, strikers, they all play in respective clubs. So they do have that creativity as long as there is a link and connection with the lineup, with how they're planted on the field. And I think they went in with the right plan for the match against England. And then that's where you saw that whole disinvolvement of their quality. But pretty much, you could say Pulisic, you could say Timmy Weah, all quality players that play in Europe and know what to do with the ball, know how to use open spaces and use their pace.
Yeah, and they did. I think for long periods of time, once they were taking the ball off areas in really critical areas where midfield-wise, we have got a good midfield, even though they didn't really show up in this game. Were you surprised at the way that the US came tactically as well? They decided we're not going to hold back. We've seen there's going to be other small teams that have gone to bigger teams, have got results. The USA weren't afraid. And did you think it was a case of they came really well or that England didn't really step up?
I think just knowing how England are, how they have been, just based on these last two matches and based on how they haven't corrected any issues from the first match against Iran, I think the players that play in the Premier League from the USA know that type of style, know how to approach them. And that definitely benefited their whole game plan and organized them how to come on to that match, which is why they had so many opportunities.
Yeah, I've just seen as well. It's 1-1.
I'm watching this in a minute.
Yeah, in the background as well. One thing, I don't know if you have any thoughts on the match or the way that are you surprised in the mentality around England? Obviously, you mentioned Gareth Southgate, but are you surprised with some of these teams like England, Belgium? They've just not. There's certain teams that have a high expectation in terms of the quality of the squad, but are just not putting it together.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised with, when you see the list of the names in that squads, you think they should be easily in semifinals, quarterfinals at least. but they are not performing as we expected. And then you see for example, you see Belgium and you see Tielemans and Woodfuss in the bench, and you think, what is he doing? Why you don't put maybe your second best creative man in the squad on the pitch when the match is that tough and you don't see a way to break through over the lines? You have that option on the bench and you don't use it. It's easy as that. So there are punctual mistakes that made the greatest teams maybe don't perform as we expect. With England, it's a real similar case with names like Phil Foden, maybe.
Don't think he even featured in this match as well. Just get all the substitutes. Again, we only made 3 subs in this game as well, which again, Henderson, I'm not going to lie, was a good sub. You could argue it was a bit too, you should have probably put him on a bit earlier. Rice didn't really have that good a game. Saka, Grealish made a little bit of an impact, but overall, I mean, I think we were discussing it. I think it was Jeff and myself, Dan, and Austin were discussing in terms of the quality that is on this bench. Alexander-Arnold, no way near the squad. Like, you're looking at this squad going, this is the quality that they have throughout. Harry Kane having a bit of a stinker. Take him off, put Wilson on. He just has his favour. I don't think Mount got dragged, and Mount was playing diabolical, in my opinion. Yeah, Mount didn't get dragged for Foden. You look at them going, you could have done something. Look at this bench. We've got options there, and you could have made more than 3 subs.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it was one of those games where, I mean, if you look there, he made his first sub in the 68th minute, and it was clear to see even at half time that we needed to change something if we were going to go on and win the game. But even to just make sure that you weren't going to lose it, because, like, I mean, you know, we can't hide from the fact that the USA were on top. Certainly in that first half, we did look, you know, well, I say they were on top. I mean, they were very energetic. They won the ball back a lot. They didn't create a whole lot. And they, to be fair, I mean, even by the end of the game, I think they only ended up with 1 shot on target. You know, which it may have even been Pulisic hitting the bar, but there were warning signs there that something needed to change. So then the fact that it's taken him to the 70th minute, essentially, to make a change. And I'll be honest, that I was very surprised to see Henderson stripped out. I thought it was crying out for Mason Mount. How he got through 90 minutes of that game, I don't know. It baffled me. But, you know, as we've touched on, you've got the likes of Phil Foden on the bench there. Jack Grealish, I think, did make an impact when he came on. But, you know, coming on into a game where the momentum's already against you, and you're only bringing on one player on one side, you know, as a winger, his ability to affect the game is going to be quite limited when you haven't really got the ball out into those areas at all. So it was a strange one for me. I definitely think it was calling out to bring Foden on into that number 10 role a lot earlier than that. It could have even been done at half time, the way Mount was playing in the first half. But yeah, like you say, I think, you know, even beyond that, you've got Calvin Phillips there for Declan Rice. If you thought he wasn't having a great game, Eric Dyer can even play there. You know, Callum Wilson, like you say, again, Harry Kane. Certainly after he took that sort of knock on his ankle as well, you're thinking maybe is it worth just bringing him off, making sure, give Callum Wilson an opportunity. So yeah, there were plenty of opportunities there. Again, I think it would have been the perfect game for James Maddison, because I think the way the USA sort of set up with their midfield, it needed somebody who can play on the half turn between the lines and look forward. But yeah, his substitutions for me were a strange one, but it does make me think that he was still just thinking, don't lose this game. And I think he was maybe worried that the USA were causing us problems, didn't want us to commit too much forward, maybe that's why we didn't see as much of an attacking impetus in the changes. But yeah, it's still a strange one, and unfortunately, like you say, because he has his favourites, I can't see it changing much for Wales either.
No, I can see it's been a very similar formation. But Jeff, coming into obviously this game, are you surprised that you didn't get 3 points out of it? Especially in the first half, the US really went for it, and the second half it did drop off a little bit. But are you surprised that you didn't go for the jugular and go, right, we can? Because we've seen this England before, where they put them a little bit more forward, you put some aggressiveness, and we can hurt teams. You can hurt teams, and England were kind of there for this. Are you kind of disappointed that you didn't get more than 1 point out of this?
Just going off the first match, you see USA very strong in the first half, and then second half they slowly just back down and not really attack as much, and as well as open spaces. So that was kind of expected. I know Kane had a clear chance, like I think the last couple of seconds or minutes of that match, with I think it was a cross and a header.
The header,
yeah. So it could go either way. Lucky that they got the point, or unlucky that they didn't get 3 points. So I think those last couple of minutes were for either team to win it.
Yeah, I think as well, like the way that you were playing and the way that I think Musa had a chance. It was like there was a cross coming. I was thinking you should have buried that. And Christian Pulisic to the post. He had plenty of opportunities. It just didn't quite work. And I think, does that give you confidence that you can get out of this group? Because again, it's still quite tight at the moment. I'll bring up the table, but it's still tight at the moment.
But yeah, it's a game for all 4 teams of the group. No team's gonna think that they're out. They're definitely gonna go in. They all have a chance. And so yeah, it's USA against Iran. So Iran won their first game, their second game, so they're gonna go with much more confidence than USA. Yeah, in the World Cup, we all know this whole tournament has been full of surprises. The fact that Japan beat Germany, then Japan lost to Costa Rica. Right now, Spain and Germany are tied. Yeah, who knows what can happen.
Sorry, are you going to say something?
Yeah, all I was going to say there was I think the only upshot to that result is I think it's actually the fixtures have played into England's hands a little bit, in the fact that Iran and USA obviously facing each other last means, they both need a result if they both want to go through, if that makes sense. So that's going to be almost a straight shootout for a qualification place. A draw obviously isn't going to be good enough for the USA, so they have to go and win. Iran, again, aren't going to want to lose that match, because if they lose, England obviously would go through with the USA. So in a way, it almost plays into England's hands with the result, but I think that's more by luck than judgment. It's going to make an interesting final round, but that USA-Iran fixture will probably have plenty of fireworks anyway, maybe even more so now, the fact that it is nearly a straight shootout for that final spot.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to get again. Juanse, how do you see this? Because this group is tighter than I would like, but again, third place now. We're coming into the last round soon of matches. How do you think this is going to go from a Group B perspective? Because England, Iran, USA, Wales, any of them could qualify at this point.
Yeah, of course. If you go to the stats, everyone can qualify. If I had to take 2 teams to get to the next stage, I will take obviously England and USA, because I think they are I don't have a term to say, but are very well formed teams with very good names, and against 2 national teams that don't have the quality. If I think the players of USA, I think Tyler Adams, Brendan Aronson, Christian Pulisic, Giovanni Reina, there are really, really good players. And if I think in England, there maybe everyone in the squad, it's a first level player, and that will be my 2 options. It's a close group, but I think England and USA should go one easy.
Yeah, I think potentially that's the way it would happen. But we've seen this before, Gary, haven't we? Where we've had the easy option, we've gone and done it, and then we've kind of just coasted it. And it's just, in my opinion, it's just not been good enough. And we've seen that if they're going to hold back now and then absolutely explode from here on out, I don't mind. But history tells otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I say, I think as fans, we obviously all want to see, we all want to see us win every single game as we go through. That said, I think, the key thing is getting out of the group. If we've put ourselves in a position where we're currently top. Ideal scenario, though, for me is, you win those first 2 games and make sure. And then that's when you can maybe look to rest a few players. You still don't want to lose that final game, of course, but it then allows you that bit of freedom and stuff. Whereas now you are going into that last game, although we're in the strong position, there's still that sort of feeling of, well, there may be something there. Because the other side is that if it doesn't go your way, yes, you may still qualify, but if you then end up qualifying second in that group, you potentially make it harder for yourself, depending on the other groups. Now, we are maybe, I wouldn't say lucky as such, but the Group A with Netherlands, Ecuador, Senegal, and Qatar has fairly gone the way you would expect it. So you're coming into that last game sort of thinking, right, well, if we finish top, we'll play second in the group. If we finish second, we'll finish top. And Netherlands go and play Qatar in that final game. They've done things, all right, they didn't get the 2 wins, but if they go and play Qatar, you should see them go through potentially top because of goal difference, you'd like to think. Obviously, Ecuador, Senegal, again, you could play either of those depending on that result. But I think we'll all agree you'd rather go and play Ecuador or Senegal in the next round than you would the Netherlands. But they haven't been convincing, Holland. But that's the sort of thing. I think when you start to look too far forward, it can be an issue. We've seen it before. Obviously, the last World Cup, we probably had what most people said was the easy route to the final. We didn't really spark too much excitement in that, and even through the Euros, there en route to the final. Other than the win against Germany was fantastic. The other 2 results there were, you're playing teams that you would expect yourselves to beat, and I think then that sort of sets you up when you do meet that good top tier team who are probably on form and have had to win most of their games to get where they are. You open yourself up for potential playing a team on form, all players on form, where you're still maybe going through the motions a little bit.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's just about, again, the thing is the quality is there in terms of the squad. It's just whether Southgate get the most of them. So if you're coming into the Wales game, obviously Wales are in a very different position to us. That's how we set up against the 4-2-3-1. Again, Southgate's gone to 4 at the back, but which is thank God, but he's still, the defensive tactics is still there. Who would you change out of this team to really to get the most out of this team?
I don't think you change too much. I think you want to try and keep that back line as sort of solid as you can. I think Maguire and Stones like playing alongside each other. I think you keep that the same. I would maybe bring Walker back in. I don't think he's ever caused you any issues in an England shirt, but obviously hasn't played due to his injury. So I would maybe put him there where he can be a bit more dangerous going forward, but also deal with the pace maybe a bit more than Trippier. I would also then obviously look to bring Maddison in for the same reasons. He's obviously not played. He's back in training. He is that sort of missing link, in that number 10 role. But Maddison or Foden, one of those I would put in over Mount. And I'd actually quite like to see Grealish start as well. I think one thing Grealish really gives you is the fact that he wins lots of fouls. I know it seems a silly thing to be wanting from a player, but it gives you opportunities, and certainly in games of fine margins, sometimes a set piece can be all it takes. So if he's carrying the ball forward and winning free kicks in and around the somewhere where you can put the ball into the box, you can't ignore it. And then the only other question is, do you rest Kane completely, or do you give him 60 minutes to see how that ankle is, or and give Wilson his chance. So, for me, I definitely Walker, and then a change in that number 10 role, for sure. And then it would just be a question of do you change Kane? Do you maybe drop Saka or Sterling for Grealish?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's a good similar thing to me. Potentially Bellingham, not because I don't think he's a good player. I think 90 years old, there's a lot of pressure on him, and then giving him that kind of like, even if he's not having a great game, half time, drag him. And again, it's not in a bad way. Look, mate, it's not happening. We'll rest you. We'll play you again later on, and then put in somebody like a Calvin Phillips just to shore it out. I think something could work. Or even drop Mason Mount into that 8, put Maddison up in that 10. I think could work as well. Jeff, coming into it, obviously you've got Wales in the next game. The US have got Wales. Are you looking forward to that game? How do you think that's going to go?
Oh, so against Iran, yeah. So
Iran. Sorry, my brain's all over the place.
It's all about what USA team appears on that pitch that day. Based on paper, obviously USA are a higher advantage based on the players they have, but it's all about just not looking at the table too much, looking that this match is yours to take to qualify into the next stage. So as long as they don't look at the table too much and just focus on themselves and focus on getting those goals in, then there should be no problem. But USA typically has a history of letting down their fans on those games when easily it could be an easy win. So it's just all about
we're there with you, mate. Don't worry, 100% understand.
Crossing your fingers and hoping that a good USA team appears in that match.
I'm going to ask you this though: do you have any fear with Iran? Because I think a lot of us are forgetting that they are a top 20 nation going into this World Cup. Now, it was something that I wasn't aware with until the stats started coming out, but they don't, like you say, have the star-studded squad that other teams do, but they do have players playing in Europe. They obviously Taremi playing up front for Porto, their Champions League regular. Do you think that maybe everybody in this group is underestimated? They've obviously shown from Wales there the other night, or do you think the USA should overall not be worrying about them?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. In football, there's no logic. So any player has their skill. That's what we're known about with the city, definitely being the ones that everyone underestimated. So yeah, it's all about just what team appears on that pitch. USA failed to qualify for the World Cup in 2018 by losing to Trinidad and Tobago, which everyone thought was going to be an easy win. So, like I said, yeah, USA are known for making that mistake. It's all about just keeping their head straight for this match, just going in and either destroying Iran or just beating them by one goal. So you never know.
The 3 points is all that matters at the end of the day. Just again, looking at some of the rankings in terms of Belgium, second, kind of shows you, like you've seen this World Cup, how bad Belgium have been, and something that we've seen before. All the talent, none of the output, and then finally as well, third, you've got Argentina with your T1 in Argentina. How have they been? How have they been so far in this World Cup?
I think the first match was a sort of tactical mistakes. If you watch the game again, you will see some offensive phases that we don't have anyone in the midfield. And that is a thing that I haven't watched in Argentina since 4 years ago, before the undefeated run. And I think Scaloni got with that and take the second game against Mexico as a chance to work with that. If you see the first half against Mexico, you see that we had like the same problem because Guido Rodriguez was backing his position a lot. He was between the two center backs forming a back five, and neither Montiel or Acuña wasn't overlapping as they should do. And in the midfield, the ball was the first half simply awful, and it hurts to say that. but because I love the Paul a lot. I think he's the heart of this team, but he's playing awful. I don't have more to say. Because he was given the role of the creative man, and he's not a creative player. He can work a lot, he can run, he can recover a lot of balls. He can do a lot of things, but he's not a creative player. And in the second half, the best chance Scaloni could do, he did it. He took off Guido Rodriguez and put Enzo Fernandez on the pitch. Enzo Fernandez is a star. He's a rising star, and if we don't buy Enzo Fernandez for the next transfer market, I will be so upset. He's literally, he entered the pitch, and Messi played a lot more relaxed, more on the front of the Mexican box. The Paul played like he was free of that work of the creative man, and Enzo played a really serious match. He played as he was playing against Almirante Brown on the B Nacional of Argentina. He was playing as it's another match, and it could have been the last match of Argentina in the World Cup, and he played simply great. And I think we were talking about Southgate and that lack of changes on the midfield, and I think that's an example of what a manager and national team manager should do. You have a player with the quality of Phil Foden on the bench. You can leave him on the bench all the game. You should at least 20 minutes, 25, 30, not a lot, but he's a player that can like unstack the games that can be thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for the next game against Poland, we are confident now.
Mm-hmm.
We were lacking of confidence since the match against Arabia, but now we are confident about what we can do on the next match, and if we can progress on the World Cup and be again team that we have been for the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, well, sorry, so, Gary, do you have any other questions? I know you feel like you're going to say something.
Well, it was just I was actually just looking at Enzo Fernandez's stats there, just as you were mentioning him, and I mean, with 13 appearances in the league this year, he's 1 goal, 3 assists, 2 assists in the Champions League, and then 2 goals in the playoffs for the Champions League. Now that's playing over in Porto. He's at Benfica at the minute, and I think it shows he is that creative player. I think for me with Argentina, they've got such a contrast between the back line and where they are further forward. They've always been an aggressive team, and they defend brilliantly. I think they have aggression and passion in their defending, and then it's just like almost similar to England. It's linking that defense to the forward players, and obviously when you look at the forward players they have, Gomez playing out wide, you've got Di Maria one side, Lautaro Martinez through the middle, and obviously goes without saying Lionel Messi, and then even players coming off the bench, you've got your young lad, I've forgotten his name, the one from City, Alvarez, sorry,
Another River Plate man.
Yeah, so it shows, but then like say even with that, it's that missing link between the two, and I think actually that's Saudi Arabia played perfectly for that game, because although they held a high line, what they also did is their forwards didn't then press further forward, which I think when you play a high line, it's almost a natural thing to think, right, we're going to press them high up the pitch and win the ball back. But they actually sat a little deeper, which meant that their whole team were in very short spaces along the pitch, which meant they allowed Argentina's back line to have that ball. But the only way they could then get it was balls over the top looking through. And obviously with that high line, yes, Argentina unlucky, or Saudi Arabia got lucky, however you want to look at it, with the offsides. But it meant that made it more difficult there. Messi likes to drop in and maybe be that connector, but he didn't have the space or the room to do that. So I think, again, for them, if they do, it's looking at, the changes. And when you've a manager that can see that, has a player he knows can change it and makes that change, that's going to be a positive thing. And I think we've all felt for a while, it's similar to how a lot of Leicester fans have felt about Brendan Rodgers over the years in terms of substitutions affecting a game. It doesn't always feel like Southgate has that idea or has that little bit of genius in him to go, right, I'm going to switch this. It's almost like it's just like for like substitutions. And that's where maybe it damages us a bit. We don't often see him changing systems mid-game. We don't often see him taking off a defensive fullback to put on a more attacking fullback, or Mason Mount moving. He doesn't tend to play a number 10 role as much for Chelsea anymore. Yeah, he's playing him in a number 10 because he wants him in that team sheet or to play that creative player. But like you say, could he work next to Declan Rice in the number 8 role and allow a Foden or a Maddison to sit further forward? Or again, even through the Euros, he played Declan Rice, Calvin Phillips, and that way of playing, it worked brilliantly. But even in games where we maybe weren't quite as comfortable, there was still no change in change or formation. It's almost like he's playing Football Manager and just sort of presses play and just makes his substitutions, doesn't go in and change his tactics halfway through, just lets the game run out. And I think you're right, that may be where England get a bit of a downfall, because in the later stages, coming up against some of these seasoned international managers that will make these changes, could that cause us a problem?
Yeah, I think it would. Genuinely do. And I think, again, you make a great point about some of the young players coming out of Argentina as well. I think overall, maybe I've not paid attention, but there's some real talent. I think Garnacho is another one. I think he's Argentinian, isn't he? Yeah,
he's Argentinian. We have Nico Paz on Real Madrid on the academy. We have Luca Romero in Italy, Mattias Soule in Juventus. We have a lot of players, really young players on academies of great teams. And that's a work that the Scaloni and his working team did a lot. Scouting, searching for young players that have some link with Argentina, and we can give them an opportunity to train with the national team and give them that love for the team, to catch them, and then maybe progress well and do well in a great league, in a great stage. Give them the opportunity to play in the national team.
Yeah, sounds good. Any other thoughts for any other things everybody wants to mention before we finish up? Because again, it's in terms of that, I think we've kind of covered the majority of it. Anybody got any final thoughts?
It's coming home. Well, I do.
Yeah, fair enough. Again, it's funny that people don't know the context. I don't think people even know the song that it comes from. They just hear the chant. But if you don't know the song, again, it's funny. I'll send you guys into that, what the song is. You're like, really? This is what you chant? Again, it's such an English terrible song kind of thing.
The best bit about the song is it's actually about all of England's failings. It's never actually about the fact that we genuinely believe it's great. It's the fact that we constantly fail, but yet when a tournament comes around, we still go, oh, but it couldn't it? And that's what it's about. But everybody just thinks it's this arrogant, we think we're the best. So yeah, you have to believe it, don't you?
Yeah, and again, it's one of our best opportunities to as well. Genuinely is. It's like one of our best opportunities to. But yeah, Gary, again, if I've got your Twitter and your Twitch down in the description, but feel free to plug away as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's C92 at Twitch, or twitch.tv/C92. We're currently back streaming Football Manager from this week, so hopefully get some more trophies on the board there.
Sounds good. Yeah, thanks for joining, Gary. Jeff, yourself, again, I've got your links as well, but feel free to plug away as well.
Yeah, so Fox to Fox Report, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok even, and this whole month is following England in the World Cup. And I guess my headline is, if England want to go into the knockout stage, you put on Maddie. Phil Foden, take him off. No, I mean Mason Mount, take him off.
we can go into that. I don't think they will, but I think we're all 100% behind you. One says, well, thank you for coming on as well. Again, I've left your link to your Twitter, S3TI, but also your Twitter as well. But feel free to plug away as well.
Well, I think if anyone have the chance to search my Twitter, it's Juan Ortiz. I'm a simple man. I don't try to to be like a star. Well, thank you for having me here, talking about England, about Argentina, about Encito Fernandez, River Plate product, and I hope I can be here more often. And now with the vacations, I think I could do it. So thank you for having me here again.
Anytime, man. We're trying to get as many people as possible. So we'll try and get, again, more than happy for anybody to join. Again, it's a bit of a weird. So we will try and get some more international fans hopefully joined. We're going to try and open this up and get some. We're trying to get Rob Tanner back on for the January transfer window. So looking forward to that. But apart from that, everybody, again, we'll be live hopefully with Niall for the post match for the Wales game. After that, we'll see everybody in the next video. So goodbye.